going on, guys? Here to break down the currently 5-game MLB slate over on DraftKings tonight. Got a shorter slate for Thursday before we get into the huge Friday slate, I'm assuming, and in terms of number of games, and then also the weekend, which we'll have early and late slates for pretty much all Saturday. And then Sunday, of course, the afternoon slate. So here we get a little short deal. We had the early slate today as well. First thing that we're going to look at here today, and I'm going to try to keep these videos between 20, 30 minutes, just give a breakdown, even on bigger slates when I do them. Hopefully can get these done 2 to 3 days a week. I don't know for sure if that'll be the case. We are going to be doing a lot more info or videos, with differing sports, college football, NFL. NASCAR is going to make its way back hopefully this weekend, Saturday night. So really hoping to do that. We've got a new partnership that I'm going to put, or collaboration, whatever you want to call it, that I'm going to put a link for here in the, or maybe Dustin could put that in the chat there, a link for our Ship It Nation partnership. They've agreed and gave us the opportunity for all of our members and watchers of the show to get 15% off of a monthly or annual or even the semi-annual subscription with them. You get a 7-day free trial with any of those, so no obligation, just free content for a week. Feel free to go check them out. I think they are a very good complement to what we have here. We've got the sheet with all the stats and info for all these sports that you may play, and then you can go over to their site, get a little more written out analysis, maybe just a different viewpoint. I've always been a fan of Tambo and Hoop in particular, so really happy to have that with them. We'll get that link posted in the chat as well, and I'll update the description of the video too. So we'll get that for you guys. Again, free week over at Ship It Nation. You do need to do the monthly or annual subscription to get that. You can choose either with or without the optimizer. I think it's $99 a month with, $69 without, before our discount. Code, like Dustin says, code Jager15 is the discount code there. That gets you down to, I think, 58 and somewhere in the 80s, 84 or something like that for their subscription. So I'll post that direct links that already has the code integrated in. When you click, I'll give that a post in the description right after the video. The Yankees game here to start. I think they're the biggest favorite on the slate. Yeah, they are, with just barely above Seattle. But of course, we've got the weather on the East Coast, so that's going to be the first thing that we're going to go look at here. Is how has this trended? It looked horrid earlier, and we have this on the sheet. I'll have to share my screen to a different page here, but what you can see is the page on the sheet that gives you all access to all the weather links to weather.com for all of the pages. So here we've got in the Bronx, 69. They've got the storms coming through. Let's see here. Looks like, let's get to the hourly. It may be a thing of can they play through it or not. And man, it looks a lot better than it did earlier. Looks like kind of hit or miss early on in this game. I think they definitely get it started if they can play through rain. So, man, it looks a lot better. We're going to need to watch this up to lock, see kind of what we get out of New York in terms of news. And there goes some kind of ad. That's nice. Samsung. But we will definitely keep track of that throughout the evening as we get closer to lock, because it is big news for this slate as we go back. Nestor Cortez going up against LA, who just isn't a very good lineup right now, and on a very bad pitching slate. If we switch over to the starting pitchers tab, Gossman at the top has not been good, and he gets Baltimore. I won't be going there at all. Brian Wu, he would be the top overall pitcher for me. Projects well, 9K against Detroit. When we're going to talk about some of the rest of these guys, they just aren't very good at all. Tyler Anderson is on the other side of that game, and 8,500. I can't even believe. I don't even know why he's priced there. New York has the highest implied team total on the slate if that game goes in terms of hitting. Dean Kramer, Kyle Gibson, both of those guys seem very similar to me, 81 and 79. Not great options, but people you're probably going to have to click on the slate. Both of those are just kind of, can they get you 15 points? Maybe even you'd take 10 in this case. I'm not sure. If that New York game goes, Nestor Cortez, I think, and Brian Wu are definitely going to be the chalk pairing. Maybe Nestor doesn't get that high. If people are worried about the weather, but he projects really well, good matchup. I think he'll get up there in ownership if that game starts to look better, which it does compared to what I saw with it earlier. If you look at the only other guy cheap that I would have interest in is Baz for Tampa Bay. And the concern with him, and I've played him a couple times this year, and the concern is the pitch count. What do you get out of him, there? But, I think you can consider him on a shorter slate, bad pitching options outside of really one guy who's probably going to be 70% owned. Maybe people, again, are worried about that with Shane Baz and with the pitch count being an issue. So he's an option. He has a solid strikeout rate. Same with Nestor, over 22, which is kind of right in line with the best on the slate. If you look at the matchup specifically against the split, I like to look at this a lot of times. The green is better, of course, in all these scenarios. If you look at Baz, doesn't have a very good matchup in terms of Seattle. It's been decent against the righties this year. Gibson gets a pretty good matchup there against Tampa Bay, who's been a little cold. Wu, the big thing with him is the matchup with Detroit, but on top of that, he's in the great pitcher's park out in Seattle. Kramer, kind of middle of the road. Toronto's been hit or miss. So that's pretty much all I've got in terms of pitchers. It's probably going to be Wu, and I'm still torn on SP2 if that New York game looks bad. If it looks good, I'll probably end up eating chalk with Nestor Cortez to go with Wu on just a horrid pitching slate. If that game gets written off or anything like that, I would probably go either Baz or Kyle Gibson, and that sounds like I want to puke when I say something like that. Going over to the hitters, you've got, again, New York with the highest implied total on the slate tonight in terms of bats. But really where I want to talk about is this Arizona-Philly game. And if we go down, of course, we don't have the lineups yet, but Colby Allard and Jordan Montgomery, both of those guys have been very bad, very bad. And both of these teams are very good matchups, hitting-wise, going up against left-handed pitching. They have been really good. If you look at Montgomery's matchup, you can see a 339 WOBA for Philly going up against lefties this year, 119 WRC plus. Same with Arizona in that matchup too. Very close to the Philly numbers. I think Philly will be popular. I think Arizona will get some ownership, of course, depending on what happens with the New York game. I think people are going to be pretty scared of that weather, personally. Even if we do kind of get a go-ahead of that one's going to start. So that is my favorite game, and it's a game stack. Top two offenses for me. Seattle is interesting because it's not a good hitter's park. And I don't know that we've even been confirmed yet with Kenta Maeda, who can be decent or he can be blown up. Let me try to check and see if I don't think we've got that news yet. I think they were still, we haven't got a firm starter for Detroit unless you guys have seen something that I'm not. So we'll be on the lookout for that. But Seattle, is a decent look. And again, it just depends on who we get pitching there. But they're firm favorites at home. In the late game, I think they can maybe not be the power options of what you need. But, Maeda can blow up at any moment. We've seen him give up some huge games to opposing offenses. So if that is who it is, I have some interest in these Seattle bats. I had seen something earlier with Alex Fado potentially going for Detroit, but we definitely need to watch that and see what's going on. So I just realized that my camera has went out. So I'm not sure what happened with that. Oh, well, you all don't need to see me anyway. So those would be the top three for me. You could take some leverage and go to maybe a Baltimore stack here. I don't think that's crazy. They have a pretty good implied total. And, Gosman, I don't know that he'll be super popular. But I think, you could go there and get the leverage that you may need for a small slate like this. They're slight favorites on the road. So definitely don't hate that. I mean, Baltimore is always in play for me anytime that they are on the slate, which isn't as much as maybe in previous years with the early starts and the way that DraftKings does their pricing. Just flipping back to this other side, of course, we don't have the Tampa lineup, but the Kyle Gibson being my lean as SP2 right now has a lot to do with the matchup. Tampa is striking out a ton over the last month or so. Not that, they're a horrific team, but they've got a lot of swing and miss in there. Same with Seattle. Kind of is what you think of that, sometimes too. But Seattle can have those games that if they get a pitcher that pitches to contact, might be a really good option to go to Seattle there. But Gibson, the Rays got some swing and miss is why that I lean there at home. Even though, it just sounds scary to play anybody like Kyle Gibson this late in his career and what he can give up. Do you stack 3, 4, or 5? So this is a good question because it's something that with baseball, I really tend to stick to stacking completely in my lineups. I mean, you will very rarely see me play anything other than a 5-3. Almost every night, it may be different on really short slates, but almost every night, if you look at my lineup in single entry stuff, you're going to see me have a 5-man main stack and a 3-man secondary. There will be times here and there that I'll do a 5-2-1 if there's either a one-off that I really like or it's just the way the lineup falls. But I will start my build process every night trying to be 5-3 by a couple teams. And the way that I'm leaning right now is being a 5-man Philly with 3-man Arizona, depending on how the lineups mesh together. and things like that. So that's a good question, Casey. It's something that with baseball I truly believe in going that way. And there'll be some nights that you see, full on mini stacks or full on one-offs win. Those nights I'm just not going to win. And I know that that's the case. And over the course of the entire season, I take my chances on getting 2 teams right as opposed to that amount of hitters. I want to be right on 2 teams, and be done with it in that way. I find it for a couple things, a lot easier to build that way, a lot easier to build multiple lineups that way, if you want to go that route. But that's something that I stick to quite a bit, is the 5-3 building. What gap do you use? What do you mean by gap? I'm sorry. So while I'm waiting on him, we just got the Rays lineup. It's not going to feed into the sheet, I don't think, just yet. We did get the St. Louis lineup as well. The Tampa lineup to go. Man, I don't know what is wrong with my camera here. There we go. Let's see here. So we got, I wish it would feed in. We got Diaz, Brandon Lowe, Morel, Josh Lowe, Carlson, Ortvet, DeLuca, Walsmead. I think I think you can definitely still attack same type of 1 player, 2 player, any. I'm assuming you're still talking about stacking. Oh, gap in the lineup. That really just depends. I would, in an ideal world, I want the 5. I don't want a huge gap in the lineup in the 5-man. A lot of times when you're doing the 5-man, it's going to work out to where there's not a lot of gap. But I do try to keep them similar. Do things like maybe play the 8-9. 1, 2, 3, get you a little value in the back end of the lineup, wraps around to the front where you get the top guys. Maybe you go toward the middle of the lineup. I would say I don't try to force the order. I more so, and if I'll pick 2 teams out and look at position by position to start when I build, and say, all right, I'm going to say you're on DraftKings, I'm going to look at catcher for Philly and Arizona. And, of course, we don't have the lineups yet. But in these projected, you got Real Muto and Cal Raleigh. Maybe that's not where I start because they're very similar priced and, the same position, same type of the area. But I'll go to maybe a position that I know I want somebody. So let's just say between, and sorry, that was Seattle, but I was just looking at these to make it easy. But let's just say I'm stacking Philly, Seattle, and at first base tonight, these projected lineups, and I know they're not going to be correct, but you had Tyler Locklear and Bryce Harper. I want to prioritize Harper tonight, so I'm going to go ahead and plug in Harper at first base. And I'm going to let it organically give me an order or players in an order. And then maybe towards the end of the lineup, I'll make decisions based on where they are in the order. But I'm not going to start my build process by saying I want 3 through 8 or whatever it may be, 3 through 7. I'm not going to do that. But in an ideal world, like you said, I don't want a big gap in my lineup because I do want that correlation. I'm not trying to just hunt out the home runs. I think when you're doing a mini stack, I think you can just hunt out the home runs. I wouldn't be opposed to playing like a 1-6-9 stack because you still got the 9-1 back to back. But then maybe you've got, in this case with Arizona, you've got Suarez in the middle of the lineup that can hit a home run. And you never know how it's going to fall. Suarez could double to start the inning. Carroll and Newman get out, and then you have a runner in scoring position that's your guy, and Perdomo and Marte up with 2 outs. But they've got both an opportunity. Maybe Perdomo knocks him in with a double, and then you got Marte. So even though there's a gap of a couple guys between Perdomo and Suarez, I don't see that as a bad thing. That's pretty much all I've got. The Tampa lineup I was hoping would feed in so we could look at strikeout rates and things like that. But we're going to really need to watch that weather in New York. Again, if you guys have not tried out Ship It Nation, we have a new partnership with them. Let me go ahead and drag this into the chat for you guys if you've not tried either of these. I'll do it with that one is just the normal monthly package, and then this one is with the optimizer. You can use either one of those. That automatically with those links gives you the code Jager15 automatically on, which gives you 15% off and a free week trial. So, nothing wrong with that. Go get you a free week, try it out, see what they've got to offer. If you want to stick around, stick around. Really like their content. They've got a lot of sports. So try them out. And we look forward to seeing you guys back here. Hopefully, in an ideal world, I could get back tomorrow to do this, but we'll just see how the work schedule works out, and we'll try to get to these a few times during the middle of the week. If not tomorrow, we will be back Saturday night to break down the NASCAR Sunday slate for the Cup Series. Good luck to everybody tonight. Let's turn on some green screens.